Hey, welcome everybody. This is the first episode of Beauty and the Beard. I am your host, Troy Burnett. This is my co-host,
Shaka Burnett.
Yeah. Hey guys, we want to welcome you all here. So, why are we actually doing a podcast? The purpose of us doing a podcast is we get a lot of love on our social media. Um, I get a lot of love on my social media. Whenever I post a photo of me and Shaka, like the world goes crazy. Let me post a picture by myself. It's like half the craziness. But if it's us together, people go crazy. Somebody said to me once, it's like, yo, I'm a big fan of you guys, or whatever the case may be. You guys have a perfect relationship. And I've actually heard that a lot of times. And they base it on our social media presence. And they don't realize that there is a lot of work that goes behind our relationship, and our relationship is nowhere near perfect. And so we wanted to share some things with you all about some things that we deal with, some things we go through, to let you know that one, you're not alone, and two, we're not necessarily perfect, but we do understand that we're worth it. You like that? You like that?
Yes.
Yeah, you like that, right? So in our first episode, Shaka, can you tell us what our first topic is?
So our first topic is something that I'm sure that a lot of couples can relate to.
Yeah.
It is love versus like.
See, some of y'all may not understand that there's a difference between love and like. There is an understanding that love is stronger than like is.
Yeah. Everybody says all you need is love.
Yeah.
And love can overcome anything, and there's just a lot of emphasis put on the fact that as long as there is a lot of love in a relationship,
yeah,
that it will withstand the test of time. There won't be any conflict or any issues, and that's not really true. There's a lot more to loving each other.
Yeah, there really is a lot more to loving one another. And so let me give you an example. For instance, I love you. I'll die for you. I'll kill for you. What else I got written down? I won't let anyone else hurt you. I actually sometimes I'm actually looking to fight somebody, to be quiet. I don't know. I just have this pent up anger or something inside of me. I guess it's from football.
There's a part of me that first of all, my husband played football in college.
Yeah.
And let me just give a little disclaimer. You'll learn more about our relationship in future podcasts, but I actually never went to a football game.
Not a one. And we were friends.
We were friends. Yeah, we were friends the whole time he was in college. And the reason why I mention that is because he's talking about fighting people like he played football. I've never seen my husband in combat. So I'm trying to imagine in my mind what you fighting looks like, because I've never actually seen.
I will punch somebody in their face.
Yeah, I've never seen any type of.
Look at my wife the wrong way. But anyway, so that's what love is. Love is I'm willing to sacrifice myself for your benefit. However, like is more along the lines of I'm willing to hang out with you. I want to talk with you. What else?
I want to be intimate.
I want to be intimate with you. I want to hang out with you. I think I might have said that already. Yeah, but I mean, that's real.
So it's more like I want to be your friend. I want to actually have a connection with you and a bond with you, not just a romantic, more of an infatuation or connection, but I actually want you to be my friend.
Yeah. And oftentimes
I want to do life with you. That's what like says.
And oftentimes I can easily love you, but it's hard to like, and vice versa. I know you. You know, you can love me, but it's hard to like me, and sometimes. So that's where we are. Love versus like, and in instances of liking one another, if you don't like one another, dude, it makes the atmosphere like really
awkward.
Really awkward.
Yeah, you can feel the tension when so my husband and I, for instance, we react to each other very easily. Like we play off of each other, and a lot of times we are communicating very openly, very jokingly. That's just a relationship we have.
Sure.
So whenever there's a moment where one of us doesn't like each other, and I'm gonna be honest, usually it's me, because just I get in my feelings.
Wait,
And
you mean you saying I don't like you or you don't like me?
I don't like you.
Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, I just want to clarify.
I just want to make sure everybody
hey, during the podcast, you get the real. So you better write it down when you can. But what I was saying is, whenever that kind of a reaction happens, it creates the tension. And because you and I are so, I said the tension, it creates tension. And because you and I are so interactive, it's very obvious when we're not having when we're not vibing.
And you know, one of the things I hate the most, I hate it when we know we don't like each other at the time, but then we get around a whole bunch of people and then we start acting all cuddly, and that frustrates me. I'm like, because we showing all these people that we cool and stuff like that, but I'm like, hey, we ain't worked this out yet.
So that's crazy, because I actually feel like whenever we're in moments of tension, we're not cuddling, and that's the awkward part.
Well, no,
like if we're walking, we usually almost always hold hands.
True.
And whenever we're not vibing, our hands are in our pockets.
Yeah.
It's like we don't know what to do.
Yeah. But I'm talking about, like, let's say, for instance, we not doing well. We had an argument or a disagreement or something like that. And then we get around family or friends. And they're like, oh, hey, that's Shaka and Troy. And we're like, oh, yeah, here we are. And
I think in that instance, we are more projecting to the person. So we're actually projecting all of what seems like we're okay on the person that we're greeting and not each other. Yeah. And they don't realize, I think if they were to actually sit and have a conversation with us, they would notice that possibly. But because it's a quick interaction, and you and I, we're very good at having a private altercation and not making it public. Like, we're very good at still being social with people when we're not connecting with each other. And I think because people see that, they don't necessarily realize that we're not doing well.
Right. And when we get into the point of where we love each other, but we're not really vibing or liking one another, one thing that happens is we don't express like our feelings and stuff towards one another. We'll communicate, but we won't necessarily share like our deepest feelings, or we won't be our natural selves. So for instance, when we're our natural selves, I'm joking with you, I'm picking on you or something like that, and you deflect my jokes and stuff like that, which really riles me up sometimes. One of the ways that to get at me is that when I crack a joke, you don't respond, I will flip. And I just told everybody my kryptonite. Why did I do that?
And it's become my favorite thing. Because he waits for a reaction. My husband maybe doesn't want to admit it, but he actually likes attention.
Why did I do that?
And part of that is just seeing the joy in others, not like a vain, I like attention, but he likes people's reaction and to know like they actually participated in the moment, like through laughing. And so to get back at him sometimes, because he loves through humor and sometimes sarcasm. And in our relationship, it tends to be a lot of sarcasm, like between the two of us. So my way of getting back at him is he'll say something and I'll be like,
ooh, and it burns my biscuits.
And then he's like, you're supposed to react.
Yeah. And
I need you to laugh.
So,
and I'm like,
so what you just said, like,
I just ruined your moment.
So when we don't like each other, we can't have those sarcastic moments.
Yeah.
Like, we send memes to one another and stuff like that throughout the day about, relationship type memes and stuff like that. I think the most recent one is you can always trust in your husband. Like, I sent her this. I said, you can always trust in your husband not to share your secrets or anything like that, because he's not listening anyway. So so we can laugh about that, right? But in moments when we don't like one another, we can't laugh about it, because what was something that was funny ends up being something that is hurting at the time. And it's not helpful at all.
No. And then it actually seems cutting.
Yeah. Yes.
And it seems inconsiderate, and it seems it doesn't seem empathetic or compassionate,
Mm-hmm.
and all the things that you would think are loving. So it's like whenever you don't like each other, the natural feeling is, I feel like he doesn't love me right now, like,
Mm-hmm.
or he doesn't know how to love me right now. So for me personally, just to be honest, I never feel that you don't love me. I think you and I from the very beginning have had such an open communication.
True.
That I know for a fact you love me.
Mm-hmm.
I think whenever we're in a position of love and like, and we're not liking each other,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you don't know how to love me, and I get offended because I feel like you don't want to learn or pay attention on how I need to be loved in the moment. So
that's a podcast exclusive.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, guys. That's something new I just learned from my wife. And so because now that I know that, I can always reflect back on that. It's like, okay, she doesn't think that I respect her, or she doesn't think that I care, or I listen, or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it is a matter of, in the moment, there is a certain place where I need you to meet the need, and I feel like when we're in that position, you're not actually taking the time to figure out what that is.
Sure.
And so you continue to react the way you know how, and what normally would work in a less tense situation, and in turn winds up being frustrating. Like it actually adds fuel to the fire.
Sure.
Instead of it being loving, which it normally is, it actually tends to be condescending and a bit hurtful sometimes.
So, all right, so that's how you feel in the moments when, in those moments. And it's funny because I associate like and love together. So when I feel like you don't like me, I feel like you don't love me at the same time. But then, that's my first thought. My second thought is, I reflect back on all the things that we've been through. I'm like, okay, she does love me, and that's like I have to capture that thought. But in the moments when I don't feel like I feel like you like me, I feel I have feelings of isolation, and because you are to me my place of. And when I say refuge, of course, God is my place of refuge. But when I'm in this world, you are physically there. You're emotionally there to help me process and to help me to be comforted when everything is crashing in and stuff like that. And but when I don't have you as an ally, and it appears that you're more like an enemy at that time, it seems like you're also a part of the world that is attacking me. And even though that's how I feel, it's not necessarily to say that feeling is correct, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah, and that's a lot of things. Like whenever tensions are high, you'll notice that your feelings tend to be how your emotions how your actions are defined. I feel hurt, therefore I'm reflecting pain. I am going to probably produce pain and hurt and frustration and whatever, because it's how I feel. And so a lot of times your emotions become the driving force for how you interact after that. Almost always. And that's why it's good sometimes to just step back and reflect on your emotions and actually really put them in check before you interact, because that's why people blow up. They start yelling and fussing and cussing and different things like that, because you're feeling hurt, pain, and anger. And so you're only going to exude hurt, pain, and anger. That's your natural reaction. There is no compassion and understanding and whatever in you in the moments of high tension and high stress.
Sure.
So you kind of have to wait until you get back to the point of leveling down, and then coming back to the moment or conversation, and really being able to gather all of your senses and not just the immediate ones. But that's the difference. I think guys and girls process these things differently. You've heard that guys need love, girls need respect. Ladies need love and men need respect.
Right.
And so I think even in thinking about those two different needs, when you're in the moment of love versus like, and there's that communication break that's
Yeah.
not happening like it should. I think it's probably also connected to how we as men and women process things differently.
Sure.
Um, I know some people are more, solution driven, and they're just kind of, let me jump into the moment and actually figure out what's going on. Let's talk, let's interact. Other people like myself are like, give me some time, let me process. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm angry. It means that I'm really needing to think about everything, the conversation we just had, the way it made me feel, how I want to interact with you,
And
when I want to interact with you.
And that right there was the biggest issue in our first few years of marriage, because Shaka needed time to process stuff, and I'm the individual like, yeah, let's process it right now. I'm what you call an external processor. Is it external, like externally?
Sounds good.
It sounds good. We're gonna roll with it. Shaka's also my thesaurus and my dictionary. She corrects me whenever she's my spell check too. So throughout this whole process, she's going to help me with my vocabulary because I failed first grade 3 times. No, but no. It's in all seriousness. When you didn't like me, and in the moments when we were first married, you needed to process your thoughts and your feelings and stuff like that. But you do it internally. I process externally. So I'm like, okay, let's deal with this. And she's also saying let's deal with this, but our deal with it is different. So when I was like, let's deal with it, I'm like, let's talk about it right now. Let's get right into the thick of things. Let's state the facts, how we felt, and all this type of stuff. And whenever I would force Shaka into that, I feel like you pushed more away, because that's not how you deal with things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess this is how I was wired.
Well, part of it was because when I first felt the emotion, I wanted nothing to do with you. And not in the sense that I was ready to leave or walk away. It wasn't that extreme. It was the kind of feeling where, if you guys remember when you were younger and your mother or father punished you, okay, whatever it was, you had to stay in a corner, you had to, you got what's it called when you can't do things, grounded, yeah. Whatever it was, and they would give you whatever punishment it was, or tell you whatever punishment it was, and then at the very end of it they would say, but I love you, or come and give me a hug, or whatever. Yeah. And if you remember that emotion or feeling, anytime they made you upset and then they'd follow it up with, but I love you, or try to continue the relationship as if nothing had ever happened, the last thing you wanted was to be touched or interact with them. Mm-hmm. And that's the feeling. So whenever the tension first arises, my initial thing is, I don't want to be intimate.
And I didn't understand that.
And intimate is not just, when you're married, your whole life pretty much is intimacy, because you connect in a way that you don't with other people. You talk to each other more, I guess, about more. If you have a good, healthy marriage, you actually are more open, you're more exposed, you're more vulnerable. And so when even just us joking back and forth, because we do it so often and so fluently, and it's just a normal part of our interaction, it's become our love language, one of our love languages, and like how we communicate with each other, and it's almost like how we let each other know everything's okay. So in the moment, that's a bond, and when we are having that moment of tension, the last thing I want to do is have that particular intimate moment with you. Like, that's an intimate moment for us.
We need to have it right now.
So
we need to discuss this right now. And I while you were saying all that stuff, and I know we said this, and we'll talk about this more when we get into our topics of like intimacy and sexual intimacy and stuff like that. But it applies not only there, but it also applies here too. But there is men are microwaves, women are ovens. We get to the point quicker than we get to the ding we get to the ding quicker than our female counterpart does. So it takes time for you to warm up. I gotta put you on 450 and let you sit for 15 minutes before you can actually get there. It takes me a minute and a half to run through my feelings and stuff like that, which is very funny because I know myself, I'm not an emotional type person. I guess that's really easy. I guess that's the reason why I like to process stuff immediately, because whenever we're going through stuff, I'm like, let's get it done now. I don't like to have feelings. One of the things, you may not know this, but another podcast exclusive. One of the things that, one of the toughest questions for me to answer after whenever, it doesn't even matter when it is how are you feeling? I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't thinking about it. I was playing my video game. I was watching TV. It's like,
and I'm more like, you really don't want to know how I'm feeling
right
now. Like,
right.
Trust me.
But outside of the love like thing, one of the hardest things for me, that is the hard question for me to answer. I don't process my feelings internally. And when you ask me about it, when you ask me to talk about it, you're asking me to process through my feelings. And I don't want to do that. So when I do actually want to process my feelings, when we don't like one another, and then I get somewhat of a stonewall, that's when I feel a moment of rejection and things of that nature. And so what ends up happening is our communication gets low. Mm-hmm. We will speak facts, but we won't speak feeling. Mm-hmm. So fact. It's raining outside. Hey, it's raining outside. You might want to get your umbrella. Facts. Mm-hmm. But we won't discuss feelings. Man, this joker at work today. Mm-hmm. I won't do that with you.
So our conversation becomes really surface.
Yes, very surface.
Yeah. It's like here. So it's like there's levels. So if you imagine, you have the ground that you can see with the grass and all that stuff. And then we know under it is the dirt, and then there's, eventually clay and a core, what have you. And so what we're saying is whenever there's tension, you can see the grass. Like, that's the level of conversation that we're having, but we don't get any deeper. So, we don't start working our way into the ground. We don't dig deeper. And so it becomes a very surface conversation.
Yo, who said you should introduce science?
I was a biology major, guys.
So hey,
you might hear that pretty often.
Leave a degree at the crib. Well,
STEM.
I guess we are at the house.
STEM.
STEM. So where are we now? Where are we at today? Are we? Is our like level high? I mean, I know. Is our like level high?
I feel like that was a setup.
Let's be real though.
Oh, I was gonna be real. I was just saying, I feel like.
Now, last Sunday. Our like level was not high.
Last Sunday before church, our like level was not
high.
Our
like level was not high.
I think after we got some food in, it was fine.
Yeah, why is it that, fellas? We haven't even got to the points, the steps. But step one to helping your wife, girlfriend work through her emotions, get her some food.
I was hangry, y'all.
It must have been. So, okay, so last Sunday, we do our normal routine. We get ready late for church, and we always show up late for church.
Unless we're serving.
Then we're still late.
Early.
Yeah, we're super early, but we're still late in some way.
We've been good.
Anyway, so we were getting ready for church, and I come in we have a regular morning routine. I come in the bathroom while Shaka's getting ready. We make I touch her in some scents, and I say good morning. And this morning I made a joke, and you hit me with the coldest of all shoulders. Oh my gosh. It was colder than a polar bear's toenails that morning time.
That's nasty.
And when I felt that, I was like, oh, what? And as a guy, when you don't know what you did, like, you start to reflect back, like, okay, so what did I do? Like, you go back to the night before. Did I not spend enough time with her? Did I eat the extra enchilada that she wanted to eat? What did I do? Did I elbow her in our sleep last night? Like, I'm a wild sleeper.
That's an understatement.
And that's but yeah, so going back then, we went through that whole day. Now, if that would have been, now we're 8 years married, we'll be 9 years married this upcoming October 2019. When we were first married, if one of us didn't feel like we liked one another, that would be like a week-long process for us to actually get to the point of figuring out what the heck is going on.
Yeah, so we had what were known as Cold Wars.
Cold Wars.
They were Cold Wars.
Yes.
And Cold Wars are really a time where you and the other person are not communicating. And so it's, you know, a lot of times when we're used to people having a fight, we think of a physical or verbal altercation.
Yeah.
But you can have a silent war.
Yeah.
And basically that's when you do the complete opposite. Instead of interacting more and in a violent way, you actually don't interact at all.
At all. And both armies are side by side, like they're not moving. And if one army does one more thing to tick the other army off, it'll. You like my sound effect?
No, it sounded like a butt I just have to think of you, and that's what I thought about.
But anyway, so yeah, so it gets to the point of where it's explosive. It could be explosive, and we don't interact at all. So back in the day, when we would go through that, it would be like a week at a time where we would actually talk it out. So now,
no, a week at a time before we talk.
Before we talk. And it'd just be straight facts surface. Yeah. Hey, I'm going here.
No intimacy whatsoever.
No intimacy at ever.
Sex, no holding hands, no kisses.
No.
And I mean, it was like the only thing that you could feel between us was the heat.
We might peck each other though.
Yeah, but there was a peck. Like you and I kiss.
Right. Oh yeah.
That's the difference. Yeah. We would actually just be like, it was literally acknowledging the fact that the other person was there. So you did enough just to say hi.
Hi. Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. There's a difference between saying hi and saying hello.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, hi.
Hi.
Kind of. So it was literally that quick. Everything we wanted to do was that quick.
Yeah.
So that we just kind of could then, we were like, it was like, you know, magnets, and how like if you have magnets that are the same, they actually repel each other. And that's how science, there you go, science again. It's a cool project to do.
I got a business degree in college and I didn't use it, so.
Anyway.
All right, so, but now, so that day, this past Sunday, what happened was, I didn't know what I did. It started off early that morning, and then probably right before we went to sleep, or no, it was like midday. I feel like you came to me and was like, I'm sorry, I was in a mood today. And that right there did so much for me. It's like, okay, it wasn't me. Because that's immediately what happens when I feel like you don't like me, is I think I did something wrong.
Right.
And here I am searching, trying to figure out exactly what did I do wrong, XYZ, blah, 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 blah. But when you told me that you were in a mood, that helped me out so much. Now, I will be honest with you. I had to process my feelings during that time. Actually, move it out just a little bit. I had to process my feelings during that time too, because I had to cope with myself while you weren't liking me. And trying to figure out exactly, okay, what the heck is going on? So I isolated a little bit. And so when Shaka pursued me and was like, hey, I was in a mood, I'm sorry, I said, okay, but inside of me, that sparked me to have a mood. And then it took some time for me to want to gel back and realize, okay, she's just going through a mood. I can't fault her for that. I could talk with her through it, what happened. But I didn't even do that initially. So it probably took me the next day still for me to come back in connection to.
So it's kind of, I think you mentioning that example is a great tidbit for everyone out there.
Yeah.
That's where a break in communication happens. You aren't always upset by something someone did. Sometimes it's literally just a bad day. Like you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You have a lot going on that day. You're overwhelmed. And we or even anybody, I think, has the thought that people somehow or another can hear our thoughts or
Sure.
see our thoughts or knows what we're feeling or why we're feeling that way or even that we're angry, and people don't. So a lot of times people aren't actually trying intentionally to hurt you or be offensive. They don't realize that you're that sensitive in the moment and that everything pretty much is offensive. And so that's where we've learned over time that communication comes in. I think if you ask, where are we now, like you did, that's where we are. We're at a point where we've recently had that conversation where we said, every time I'm feeling a way or reacting a certain way towards you, it's not personal. It's just I am in that space and that's kind of how I feel. Something is bothering me or I'm tense or whatever. And so I'm kind of, a little bit on the edge, and you just happen to be that last little piece that pushed me over. And it wasn't anything big that you might have done or anything like significant. And I think that's the one thing that people have to understand, that communication is key. It's important. We've gotten to that point of understanding that where that's why the Cold Wars don't last so long. It doesn't mean that I'm over the emotion quickly or any quicker, to be honest. I still have to process. I still have to get out of my feelings. But I feel like we've gotten to a point where we realize that we owe each other enough to say, this is what's going on. So because my husband knows that I need to process it now, he gives me time. And because I know he needs to know it's nothing personal or understand, I'm a little bit quicker to say, this is what's going on. And also to apologize. I think that was one thing I did last week. I apologized. I said, I'm sorry. It wasn't anything personal, like my mood earlier.
And I recorded it on my phone because I never get apologies.
No, just like he's recording this because he'll never hear.
I'll never hear it again.
Stuff again.
I am going to rewind this several times.
This is a podcast exclusive.
This is a podcast exclusive because my wife apologized.
Yeah. Not just now, but but I think that's a key thing. Communication.
Yep.
Really just allowing the person who you're with to not necessarily solve the problem, but to understand where your headspace is, what's going on, to not automatically assume they know or they understand, and but to actually say, this is what's going on. Even if you're saying, I'm not doing good right now, just that much sometimes is enough. I'm not doing good right now. You didn't do anything. I just need some time. And
that's what that was never communicated to me, especially when we were first married. So when we were first married, Shaka, I didn't know how much her job was a stress and a pain and caused her so much anxiety. I didn't know that. So she would come home from work and not talk to me because she's processing stuff that happened at work. But I didn't know that. What I thought Shaka was cheating on me. And she was actually hiding stuff. Because when I would interact with her, I'm like, why isn't she talking to me right now? And I thought because she got all her words out, because she talked to her potential side boo. But that was never the case. It was her job. The trigger was her job. But I didn't know that. And so, and once again, as the man, I looked at it myself. Where did I go wrong? What did I do wrong? So I have to say this. My intentions were good, even though it sounded bad and it worked out bad. She was trying to protect me. Yeah. So two things, ladies. One of the things before I got married was you always hear about the wife being a nagger. You always hear about her fussing and complaining and not being open and honest in a loving and affectionate way or something like that. How do you do that? I mean, I'm not saying that you can't, you can, but there's a difference between nagging and sharing. Sure. And so I didn't know the difference early on. I felt like if I told my husband I needed something done, or if I complained about certain things often and frequently because they were occurring often or frequent, that was nagging. And I also did not want to bring the tension of work into my home and make that his burden.
And so it was one of those things where I don't have anything positive to say right now. My day was pure HE double hockey six.
You can say hell.
I didn't know how we were going to go, especially in the first podcast.
We're gonna be PG-12.
12.
Yeah.
Now TV even allows 14.
I know.
Yeah, that's a bit much.
We're gonna do PG-12
until we talk about
Ooh.
SCS.
Hey.
Mm-hmm. But I didn't want our home to mimic work.
Sure.
And so the only way I knew how to do that was to not share and to not, I mean, literally guys, when he says he thinks I was cheating, not beyond the talk time, I would go to work at 6 a.m. and not get back sometimes till
late
after midnight.
Yes.
And I was supposed to get off at like 4:30. I was supposed to be working 12-hour shifts, and it was the demands of the job. So just looking at that alone, you can imagine when I got home, I was tired. I was exhausted. I was frustrated.
Yes. So being exhausted, you don't feel like being intimate. Mm-hmm. And here I am. I'm like, I got rose petals and stuff on the floor. Well, actually, no, I didn't.
No.
But I was throwing them hints out there. I was like, I'm gonna go to bed. You did do
a KFC picnic one time.
I did do that, but that was dope. That was dope. Cool. That was dope. It's so funny though, because back then, you know, we come home, we want to be all over one another. Now we come home and we just want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
We're old.
We're old. Tired.
We're really tired.
I mean, our jobs are mentally exhausting.
Yeah.
And before we moved, my job was mentally and physically exhausting.
Yeah.
And so honestly, ladies, one of the things that you find in terms of intimacy is we have to connect mentally in order for us to be there. Where you probably heard this a lot, where guy is more physical in nature. So
microwaves.
Microwaves, exactly. So for us, there's a little bit of preheating. You might have to set the temperature and get it ready and prep and all that stuff before it actually gets there. And then you have to wait for the oven to actually make a sound to know that it's okay to start cooking.
Yeah.
But it takes time. And when you're already overly exhausted, mm-hmm. The emotional would take a lot longer. Like first you have to get to a point of relaxing. Like part of that preheat time is us relaxing. And so in the very beginning, I think because of the nature of our marriage, and we'll share that with you about our dating and stuff like that later, there wasn't that understanding. It was literally, we're married now, so you should be fast food all the time. It should be instant all the time. Yeah. And we had to learn it wasn't.
Like, so look, we need to get up out of here. We want to move into the steps that we use in order to address our love-like dilemma. So I'll jump off by starting saying, so for the guys, I know for myself, did you peep earlier? So step one is to speak truth to my thoughts. So you peep earlier when my wife wasn't coming home, and when she wasn't coming home early, and then she wouldn't even interact with me, my mind raced to she's having an affair. I let my thoughts run over, and it ended up making me changing my actions towards her. So what I had to learn how to do is to speak truth to my thoughts. My wife is not cheating on me. And I would even ask her, are you cheating on me?
You asked me that. I don't even know if you asked me that once.
I did ask you that.
I feel like you thought that.
I thought that, well.
Because I feel like I didn't actually know that until a couple years later.
Yeah. So, but even after that, like, even in our dislike moments, I thought I always think that my wife's trying to reject me. And it's not. I've come to realize my wife is not rejecting me. She's just having to process. This is her time of process. And so I have to learn how to allow her to process. And part of that is capturing my thoughts and saying, okay, She's not doing this because she hates me. She's not doing this because she doesn't want to be close to me. She just needs to process through some of the things that she's going through mentally right now. And so so that's part one. Speak life to my thoughts. But also too, make sure that I'm praying for this woman. Oh my gosh. Prayer changes so much. Especially for me, because when you start submitting things, and okay, so first and foremost, if y'all haven't realized this yet, Shaka and I are Christians, and so we take our anxieties and prayer, our worries and our concerns in prayer to the Lord. So I learned how to pray for my wife. Lord, while she's processing, while she's going through these things right now, Lord, help her to work through her thoughts, help her to find comfort in you, help her to find peace, because that was a lot of the stuff you didn't have peace. Mm-hmm. You continuously like going through the work issues and stuff like that, family drama. We both have family drama. We all have family drama. I'm sorry, family. I love y'all, but
sometimes we don't like you.
That'll preach. That's part two. But anyway, yeah. So I would speak life to my thoughts. 2, I would pray for my woman. 3, I would initiate. This is the tough one. Initiate interaction, because you feel okay. So she's going through her moments when she is not interacting with you. We then feel rejection, or I felt rejection. And then because I felt rejection, I would not initiate interaction with you. And so I had to learn, okay, just bite this bullet. You don't know why she's upset. She hasn't expressed anything to you just yet, but still initiate interaction. Because here's the thing, guys, it is our duty. Can I preach real quick? It is our duty to pursue our women.
I thought you were going to say something else.
Pursue the booty?
Yeah.
That what you thought I was going to say? No. That too. But it is our duty to pursue our wife. I often think about the Mario Brothers scenario. Think about Mario. What is he doing in every single Mario? He is trying to save the princess. And he goes through multiple levels.
I never got far enough to know.
But he's trying to save the princess. Princess Peach. First and foremost, princess, you need to get your life together, okay? You need to quit hanging around Koopa Troopers, because that is what's getting you caught up with King Koopa all the daggone time.
If I remember correctly, she held her own.
In Mario too, but no one liked that game.
I'm about to say.
No one liked that game at all. But anyway, in all these other Marios, Mario is trying to save the princess. And regardless of how many times the princess gets caught, Mario continuously pursues her. And he goes through he goes through warm stages, cold stages, when you slipping on ice, hot stages when the sun used to come around and try to hit you in Super Mario's Part 3. I'm a nerd. So in Super Mario's Part 3, when the sun used to try to hit you, he would go through all these type of scenarios. Big world, little world, all this type of stuff. But he would continuously pursue after the princess every single time. And so he initiated trying to get her back regardless of where she was. And so it is our duty in order to do the same thing, in my personal opinion. So initiate interaction, jump out the window, and just not physically jump out the window, but jump out of the window and like, look, I might hurt myself in the midst of saying, hey, let's talk, or I like how you look right now. Like, compliment your wife even when you're not interacting, and continuously like pour that stuff on. The Bible speaks about that stuff. It says, when you do well for your enemies, it's as if you're pouring hot coals over top of their head. And she's not my enemy, but if I can at least do that for my enemy, I can at least do that for the person that I love.
Can I actually
jump in?
Add something to that?
Yes.
If she likes it. because if you remember when I told you, one of the things that happens whenever there's moments of tension and the things that you would normally do can be irritating.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I'm not in the mindset to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of the things that you learn over time in marriage is the way that you like something is not necessarily the way I like it.
Yes.
And so one of the ways that you should love on someone is by doing it in the way that they like it.
Yes. And yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so as much as that complimenting your woman is great, there are other ways to do it. Like you may not have to say, she may not be ready to receive the "you look beautiful" and "you look whatever," because it could seem not genuine. So I keep hitting this microphone. So one of the things that you could do is there anything I can do for you?
Yeah, that's
or
what it is.
Can I help or what have you? And actually ask if there's something that you can offer her that she might be ready or willing to receive. But that would be my one advice.
I know one thing for Shaka is when she's upset, if I give her some food, if I know she didn't eat in a while, oh man, a couple times we didn't like each other and we were at work and you'll leave your office for a meeting and I will come back and I have like a cookie or something on your desk. You like surprises.
Now, that works at work.
It does work at work.
Because work is a place where that kind of stuff doesn't happen and I can't do it for myself.
Okay.
But if you were to try that same thing, like try leaving a cookie on the bed and see if I react the same way. You know what I
don't
mean?
like crumbs on the bed.
Well, no, I'm just saying try leaving me like a little cupcake on the counter. You might actually see that cupcake sitting in the same place 3 days later. You know what I mean? Like it's probably at work if I'm upset.
Sure.
But one of the frustrating parts about work is you can't just walk away.
That's true.
And at home you can. And so any type of thing that takes off some of that tension, that kind of cuts some of that tension at work is more welcomed. But when at home, when I can actually escape, it doesn't seem to really matter so much. So again, you have to really, it's best when you're trying to do that to understand where your spouse is mentally and even physically, and not just doing what you think works or what you know has worked in the past. Because sometimes if you're repetitive, the person can kind of wise up to that and it becomes less effective because it's no longer genuine.
But how come it becomes less effective versus saying he's making a solid attempts?
Is he?
Yes. I do not like dishes. I do the dishes for you because I love you.
Right.
And I like you. And I want us to like one another.
Right. But if
just like right after this, I'm going to go do dishes. So when you come back after your massage, she's getting a massage today.
Yeah.
After you come back from your massage,
so I'm leaving.
We need to hurry up. When you come back from after your massage, you come back. Ooh, the kitchen's clean. You know how many times you've told me, you sent me that Mr. Clean commercial, and you was like, "Oh, that Mr. Clean when he clean up, it gets hot." Hey,
ladies. Truthful moment. It's a cartoon. Bless his little heart.
Yes,
but
it
you
is.
guys have seen that new Mr. Clean commercial.
It's not really
new.
Now it's not.
When I say new, I mean compared to what the little bald-headed commercial used to be.
Yes.
And the one where they have him like dancing and he's like kind of swaying his hips and he takes the microphone and does some special stuff. I don't know if it was the commercial, the bald head, or the fact that he's a man cleaning, but something about that commercial is very appealing. And so I sent it to my husband kind of as a like, look at this. But I know it's not like I expect him to go full, maid service on the house.
I do surface level cleaning.
He does.
I don't deep clean.
And I have learned to have to appreciate that.
Yeah. And
I say have to appreciate that because, you also have to recognize, I did say, you have to learn to love the person where they are and kind of do something that speaks to them.
Sure.
But also the other person has to recognize when you're genuinely trying.
Yeah.
You can't just say because you didn't do it the way I like it, it's not enough. We have to learn to see the intent.
Yeah.
And that's what matters.
So Troy's 4 things. 1, speak life to my thoughts. I need to address the internal battle that I'm going through right at that time when we don't like each other. Pray for my woman. I starting to express myself externally towards God. And then the third thing is to initiate interaction with my wife, and whatever ways that I know interaction is actually well received. And the fourth thing is to actually share feelings. And I know for us gentlemen, that's really hard for us to do, because in times in the past when you share your feelings, if you get rejected, you're like, oh, I'll never do that again. But it gets to the point where we have to do that. And I pray that you're not in a relationship where your significant other will not weaponize your feelings against you, in a point of where you share your feelings and then they try to bring it up in the future, like, oh, you was all weak when you were sharing blah blah blah. I hopefully because if that's an issue, then that's a little bit deeper than some of the things that we're talking about today. But yeah, get to the point of where you can start sharing your feelings and not blaming. There's a difference between, so what I mean is, I'm sharing my feelings. When you did this, I felt this. Mm-hmm. When you did this, I felt this. And it's not like, you always do this and da 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 da, and I know what you meant. You're trying to sabotage me. And that's not really the case. Because when I say, when you did this, this is how I feel, I am actually putting in perspective of how I perceived this whole action happen. And so then you have the telling of the stories. I tell my side of the story, and then hopefully in a healthy relationship, you can do that back and forth. So when you did this, I felt like this, and this is why I did this. And then hopefully your wife or your spouse can, your wife or your husband can say back in return, oh, okay, that's not what I meant, because when you did this, this is the reason why I did this. So those are my points that I have, as far as like whenever I try to make steps of getting out of that love-like type of conflict when we ever have those. Do you have anything?
Yeah, so we've kind of learned that I think the end result is the same. We want to open lines of communication again. We want to connect and interact again, and allow a safe place of intimacy again. And that's both. I think what we've also realized is that for both of us, there's a different process to get there. So for me, I actually have to walk away and process it first. I've never been a yeller or someone to actually speak angrily to someone. And so I actually have to walk away and think about it. And processing for me allows me to come from that high, stressful, tense place and actually come back and say something productive and mature.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good.
And so that's the first thing for me. I think if you're in a position where your immediate response is going to be one where you do not speak in love, and love does not mean that you're necessarily in a place where you are connected completely. It means that you're being considerate of the other person. And considerate means, I want you to understand me. I'm going to talk to you in a way that you understand, not talk to a way that I berate you or make you feel hurt or shame or whatever, but actually this conversation that we're going to have is going to be purposeful.
Yeah.
And the result, end goal is for it to be positive, like a positive result from it. So sometimes you have to walk away for that. You can't do it in the moment because you're just going to yell and fuss and cuss. You actually have to let yourself get off of that level of high tension and stress.
You cussed at me before?
Internally.
But hey, can I say this though? So by saying that, when we come to share, the point of us sharing is not to win.
No, it's not a competition.
It's not a competition. We are teammates. We are working on the same team. So when we come to talk out our issues, it's not to say, oh, I won that argument. It is to say, hey, what can we do to work together as a team to win together?
Yeah. Agreed. So after I've processed it, part of my processing actually involves some form of meditation. And I don't know what that is for a lot of people, but it can be literal meditation, like you sit and you just kind of say some stuff over and over again, like your mantra or whatever. It could literally be yoga for some individuals, which is really, more power to you. I'm going to get to the point where I can do all of that. But for me, it's my moments of meditation involve prayer, worship, and music. And it's literally, even in my times when I'm really upset, my subconscious, which I believe is the spiritual part of me, actually knows logic. It's my alarm. And what makes sense. And so in the back of my head, in the back of my mind, I actually know what's happening. I know the fact that I'm completely emotional. I know the fact of all of that. But my pride won't let me say it or won't let me respond differently. And so I have to get to a point where I literally take time and talk to myself, really, and talk to God and allow the pride to take a back seat. And that's what meditation does for me. It actually, praying and listening to music, I might go and have to a cafe and have coffee or some type of treat for myself or whatever, to take myself down a notch. And then I can come back and my mood has changed. And then I'm ready to be more receptive to some of the things my husband might do. I'm ready to actually have the conversation. Doesn't mean that I'm healed. It doesn't mean that I'm better completely, but it means that I'm in a better place.
Yeah.
And I am I'm ready to fix whatever the issue was.
Yeah.
And then after that, it follows the same as him. The key thing that we've learned is to continue communication and to continue to initiate as much intimacy as possible. It may not be physical. It may just be the conversation and the fact that we talk. But whenever we are tense and we don't talk for a while or don't have interaction for a while, one of the things that we realize is when we come back together, it is hard to start again. It seems awkward to touch. It seems awkward to be any type of intimate. And we have to kind of get back to that place. So having open communication for us kind of helps us ease back into that a little quicker and a little better. And then the last thing for me is to share one of the things that we've been saying that you learn over time is that the other person's not a mind reader. And not everything is a result of an interaction you have with that person.
Say that again.
And so the communication.
Say that again.
No, we don't have time. Rewind.
The other person is not a mind reader. I will say it for her. The other person is not a mind reader. I don't know what you're thinking. And so unless you tell me what you're thinking, I won't be able to communicate or reach you to where you need to be reached.
No, yeah. I'm thinking my alarm's going off a little bit again. No, but he's right. Like you said, the other person doesn't necessarily know what the trigger was. And the other person can literally do it again, not realizing. And it may not be something they initially did. It's just something they did in the moment that you were already upset. So sharing your perception, like saying, this is how it made me feel when you did this, or this is what's going on right now that's making me feel this way. And then also saying, this is what I need. And saying, right now I need space. Right now I just need to talk. Right now I need for us to get dressed up and go out to eat. Whatever it is that you need, communicating what's going to help you best to get over yourself and out of the mood quickly and in the best way possible. Because again, the thing is, you want your own mental health and well-being as well as that of your relationship to be restored. You can get over a situation and not be healed from it if it's not handled correctly. And then when it comes up again, it just winds up being even more painful. So it's a process. the process, the end goal again should be something positive, should be for both of you to be able to get to a better place and learn how to deal with that situation so that even if it comes again, because let's be real, a lot of stuff that happens in our life is something that's happened before. It's why it hurts even more the next time.
And it triggers something from the past.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if we address it, we can learn what the triggers are.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next time it comes around, we can identify it. And because we've been in the situation now together, we both can work through it.
And healing can take process.
Yeah.
All right, so we need to rush out of here because Shaka's alarm is going to go off and interrupt the Beauty and the Beard podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it so far. We're going to leave you with 3 final thoughts. And the first one is this. You have to work towards being self-sufficient when it comes to marital issues. And I'm not talking about personal self-sufficient. Your marriage has to be self-sufficient as far as when it comes to marital issues. Some of us can't function unless we have a third party present in order to help us work through things. And having a third party is not a problem. But eventually, the couple needs to be able to work on issues together and come to solutions together, because that third party will not always be there. And also that third party is not always non-biased. Sometimes it can be leaning towards one person in the relationship or the other person in the relationship, and it ends up putting one of them outside in the cold and feeling rejected, not only just by one person, but now by 2. So it is very important for couples to be able to work through issues together, because when you work through issues together, it makes the bond between you so much better.
Now, I will kind of add a little bit of a note to that. It's not to say that you shouldn't seek help from someone.
No, it's not to say that at all.
Who's not going to have bias. So it could be a pastor, it could be a professional counselor.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in a point where you've tried doing it by yourself and it's not effective, you two are still butting heads or you're not coming together quickly, it's okay. It is completely okay and even healthy to seek counseling elsewhere.
It is completely healthy. Yes, it is. It is. Yes, it is.
But don't just have your best friend be the mediator.
Yes.
Notice it's your best friend.
Your best friend. It doesn't necessarily mean it's their best friend too. Girl, I heard he said this. Let me get a hand on him. I bet you he won't say it no more times.
We're just saying.
But then the dudes are no better. Man, you need to go ahead and leave her, man. If I was you, I would have left her a long time ago. That is, these 2 type of voices are not helping you towards your thoughts towards one another. It's not helping you towards your prayer for one another. It's not helping you look at each other as a team. You looking at each other as if you're in the NBA, you can easily trade people off. No. Yeah. For you married people specifically, you have made a commitment in front of your family and friends. And most importantly, for those who do believe, you have made a commitment in front of God.
Yeah. And anybody who is not in a marital relationship, they don't necessarily understand the commitment that you've made. And so sometimes they're going to give you advice as a single person. And that is them giving you the advice of being independent.
Yes.
And so in a marriage, you're not independent. You've come together. You're supposed to be making these decisions and working towards unity. And so sometimes when you're married, bringing single people into your life and having them speak into your marriage is not wise.
It's not wise.
They're not there. And having a boyfriend and girlfriend, not the same. In our opinion, not the same. Because they can walk away.
Mm-hmm.
You can choose to be in another relationship. Mm-hmm. You aren't forced. It would be great if you did work on stuff, but you don't actually have to work on it.
I will even say
as a dating couple.
the way that me and my wife look at our single friends as we look at them as we are, me and Shaka are in your life to impact you.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily always the same, the reverse. We appreciate our single friends. We love our single friends. But a lot of them can't necessarily help us as far as where we're going in our marriage. So what do? We seek other married couples who have healthy relationships, who know how to work through their issues, who I remember when we first did this marriage workshop. You got to go. I know when we first did this marriage workshop, there were different tables that we could sit at that had leaders, and each table had different age ranges of leaders and stuff like that. We chose the table that had married couples who are our leaders, who were together for like 20 plus years.
We didn't know that. We actually we picked the table because they were the more senior individuals, and so we had assumed, but there were quite a few couples at the table that were in their second marriage, and so they had not been married as long as we had, but they still had words for us because they had learned a lot from their previous marriages that had made their new marriages stronger.
Yeah, but we weren't about to pick the table that had the couple who had just been married for 6 months. No, we weren't going to pick that at all.
Well, like, they had.
We can help one another, but I can't necessarily glean from people in that nature. All right, so real quick, we need to get the heck up out of here.
Can I add really quickly? Oh, I'm sorry.
You the one telling me you need to go.
I know. I have to add to that. The reason why we didn't want the couple who had been married for 6 months is both of us come from divorced families. And we needed to see longevity. My parents were married for over 20 years before they got divorced. And so what most people look at and say, they've been married forever and it lasted and whatever. I even did, I told you about this clinic I did one time where it was a diabetic clinic where we helped people get shoes who had extreme cases of diabetes, and they were more senior. And there were these two ladies who were a sister-in-law and her, I guess, whatever, sister-in-laws. And they were talking about their marriages, and they had been married, one of them for 69 years and got a divorce. And the other one had been married for over 40 or 50 and got a divorce from each other. They were brothers, like the husbands were brothers, and they both divorced the brothers, but the wives remained friends. And so you look at that and you think in your mind, if you get past a certain point, it's going to last forever, and it doesn't always. So we wanted to see longevity. We wanted to see people who had been through the seasons of marriage, because there's seasons in marriage,
that's
and made it work.
Yeah. Next point is you are a team. Your wife did not wake up in the morning time thinking to herself, what can I do to destroy my husband's life? And your husband didn't wake up in the morning time thinking, this feels good. It's a great day to destroy my wife's life. We don't wake up thinking stuff like that. We are a team. And it's necessary to understand that when we win, we both win together. I can't personally look for my own wins in life, saying that if I win, it's okay, but if she loses while I win, that's okay. No, we need to be working together as far as like being a team. I'll give you a point. Johnny Manziel, who is Johnny Football Manziel, great athlete. And he can be an asset to any team. Went to the NFL, and he can't control himself in life, but he thinks he's winning, but he's destroying his team. And then he gets kicked out of the NFL, goes to the CFL, does a great job there, but then gets kicked off again because he's trying to have personal wins in his life, not realizing how he acts and his actions affects the whole team. And so if I realize that my teamwork on and off the court affects us together, then we both win. And so it's necessary that we work together. That point's really jumbled up because we need to get the heck up out of there. And the last point is this. You can't make permanent decisions off of temporary feelings. Look, guys, feelings come and go. And I've seen and heard people make drastic decisions based upon just like some temporary feelings that they go through. And what we want is to make marriages great, and to have longevity. And if you are currently feeling as though your marriage is taking a hit right now, or your relationship is taking a hit, we ask that, we hope that you can see our relationship, seek other people, and realizing that it's not like it is in the movies. You actually have to work at this thing to make it function. So any last words, ma'am?
Yeah, we're not perfect.
We're not perfect at all.
We definitely don't want to give that impression or that illusion that we've got it together.
Yes.
We are still learning to be effective communicators. We've been married now for almost 9 years. And that's one of the things that I think we're even now just starting to see develop.
Yeah.
So we want to put that out there. We are literally sharing with you things that we've learned in our 8 years of marriage.
Yeah.
And as we learn more, we hope to share more. And we know that individuals who have been in this for 30 years even, or 2 months, can attest to some of these things that we've gone through. And so we're just wanting to create a community where everyone can say, I'm not alone. And maybe the way that I've handled this in the past wasn't as effective, but here are some other tools and opportunities and things to think about when these situations arise.
Yeah. So this has been the first podcast of Beauty and the Beard. We hope you all enjoyed. Next time, we'll see you all shortly.
Oh, no.
Maybe.
How do you say that? Like and subscribe. Is that what they do?
Right? Yeah, I guess. Hey, if you have any ideas or some things that you would like for us to talk about, put something down in the comments as far as topics that you think that you would like for us to address. We'll be willing to do it. One of our next talks is going to be the talk of the 30-year-old virgin, I'm sorry, and the 16-year-old virgin. So if you want to hear that, just let us know which one you want to hear next, and we'll go with that. That has been our first episode of Beauty and the Beard.
Yay! We made it.
We did, and we didn't kill each other.
No, and we still like each other.
And we still like each other. Can I have a
think
kiss?
about that. No, I have gloss on.
I'll take the gloss.
He really likes me.
Yeah, because I don't like gloss.
This is a podcast exclusive. Okay. All right,
Ready?
Ready. Love you.
Love you too.